Hello and welcome to this special edition of Suits and Boots, the TDI podcast series in conjunction with the Investing in African Mining Indaba. In this series, we discuss some of the key themes that will be covered at the 2026 Mining Indaba conference. I'm Ashton Stewart Carter, Executive Chair at TDI Sustainability and Board Member and Chief Investment Officer at the Impact Facility. Today, we're joined by one of the winners of this year's Community Voices competition run by the Impact Facility and the Mining Indaba organisers. Yamikani Jimusole is a Malawian miner, entrepreneur, and a visionary leader. Now, this theme today is really very special to me. I founded the Impact Facility for Sustainable Mining Communities about 8 years ago with the specific purpose of investing into mining communities. Back in the day, way back in the day, I researched and wrote my PhD thesis on how mining communities are often overlooked or do not have the skills or the political power to take advantage of mineral resources and mineral development. And I worked for 12 years in international NGOs promoting ways to drive economic development to mining communities. And then about 8 years ago, I started the Impact Facility and the Impact Capital Limited to invest into mining communities, SMEs, into small enterprises around development and where mineral deposits lie, and especially in artisanal mining communities. The Impact Facility is now investing in the DRC, Tanzania, Kenya, and some West African countries too. And a big shout out here for the Mining Indaba, as they realized a few years ago that mining communities need a louder voice at the Indaba event, a platform if you want. And so together with the Impact Facility and Indaba, we conceived community voices to get leaders, entrepreneurs, and activists in the mining sector to the Indaba. Which has, up until quite recently, been mostly corporate and international financing attendees at the conference. So this is the second or maybe the third year that we've been doing the community voices, and it's really important and fantastic for me to see at the Indaba and hear from these community leaders such as Yamikani. So it's a thrill for me to have Yamikani on this podcast and to hear what he has to say from his perspective, which still isn't heard as much as it should be heard. So Yamikani, we've got some serious topics today to speak about, but first of all, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey, some of the passion that drove you to become an entrepreneur in the colored gemstone sector. And you're a gemologist by training, I think. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you began and what inspired you to get into this business.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Actually, I joined the gemstone industry in 2015. But before that, I was self-employed. It was my sister, Dr. Tinyadi Kachika, who was by then working with the UN Women. She was doing a research on the impact of mining on women. So she called me this other day to find out if I know anything about the gemstone industry. So I said no. So she said, I've been traveling around Malawi and I've seen a lot of people mining gemstones. Perhaps you can conduct a research on aquamarine. So basically, I started my journey with desk research. And I was very impressed with what I saw on the internet. Tiny gemstones fetching a lot of money. So in 2014, an opportunity came and I was able to visit one of the mines in Mzimba, the northern part of Malawi. I stayed there for 4 weeks and I was just observing. But when I went back to Blantyre, I submitted a report to my sister on how they can improve the workers' welfare as well as they can improve on production. So later on, she called me again to say, I've partnered with a woman in Mzimba We are planning to start mining aquamarine. So if you are interested, you can join us. So I joined them in 2014 as a volunteer manager, and I resigned in 2016. I wanted to focus more on exploration. But we had another meeting with my sister, and she suggested that I should start looking for gemology colleges. So I settled for Gemology Institute of America, GIA, and I chose Thailand campus simply because Thailand is considered the gemstone hub. When I came back, I established Yami Gemstone Lab Exports. That was in February 2018.
That's a great story. And I have to be transparent that I have a personal interest in this because my son is also a gemologist, but he studied and is a graduate from a rival school from Gem A in London. But we decided he should have a go at that, partly because I've been so inspired by many of the colored gemstones I've seen in Africa. You know, one thing I think our podcasters should realize about your story is that colored gemstone mining is a very high risk business. It's not like gold mining, or it's not like base metal mining, in that it's each individual stone is where the value lies. So you can't just crush for stone and hope to get a aggregate value for your product. You have to understand each individual stone and how to remove that without damaging that value. And so the gemology piece is important, but it also is high risk. And also, our listeners might not know that colored gemstone mining in particular is mostly artisanal. 90+% is done through artisanal extraction. So making a living out of this and enabling your community to benefit from this is no easy task, and it's very high risk. So I think this is very much take our hats off to this endeavor.
Thank you.
So going a little bit into the some of the challenges that we face, and I think we heard that in your inspirational story of how you came to do this in the first place. In your Community Voices application to the Indaba, you raised a very striking question. It's how can a country as geologically rich as Malawi remain so economically poor from its gemstones, what academics call the resource curse? So I guess through your own experience and through your travels through your country, what have you uncovered about the root of this disparity between the mineral wealth and the national benefit? Malawi is rich in these minerals, and so why isn't it benefiting?
Now as a gemologist, I thought it wise to first conduct a research to study the gemstone landscape of Malawi. When I was doing that, I discovered that Malawi actually hosts some of the most exotic gemstones in the world. We are talking of grandidierite, rubies, papyrus, sapphires, spinels, tourmaline, aquamarines. So actually, I was very disturbed because I couldn't understand why Malawi was still among the 5 poorest nations in the world. So I conducted a research, and I discovered that even though the government had an accredited gemologist between 2014 and 2024, but the country still lacked proper grading certification as well as appraisal systems. So normally grading process, this is a process whereby a qualified gemologist or a qualified grader evaluates the gemstone based on the 4 C's, which is color, cut, clarity, and also carat weight, just to assess the gemstone value. Whereas certification, this is now a process whereby a third party, whether accredited gemologists or a laboratory, they now authenticate the gemstone and they do issue a report. So basically, apart from the forces, they're also looking at determining whether the gemstone is 100% natural, or whether the gemstone has undergone any enhancements, maybe to improve color clarity, and also to determine the origin. So at the end, they do issue a gemstone report. Others call it a certificate. This certificate is very important because it brings confidence as well as trust. And finally, we have appraisal report. This is done by an accredited jewel appraiser. Then the purpose is to ensure that he puts a monetary value on the gemstone. This appraisal report could be useful for insurance purposes, fair market value, estate purposes, or even you can secure a loan using such documents. So overall, these are processes there to ensure that the sellers, the buyers, as well as the owners are aware of the value of the gemstone.
Fascinating. And just to continue the explain a little bit more, can you explain the local supply chain? So how many hands does a gemstone pass through before it gets to export, from the digger, from the mine site through to the actual export?
I would say a lot because we have so many foreigners around. So basically, they do go to the remote areas. They do access gemstones from the small-scale miners. So I believe should be several hands.
Right. And so really what you're saying, I think, is two things. Is one, as a country, Malawi hasn't understood correctly, or it's the value that it has under the earth in the gemstone deposits. And so it's unable to bargain effectively at the kind of the point of export. And I think the other thing that you're, or at least I'm inferring, is that because there are many links in the chain from mine to export, that wealth doesn't trickle down necessarily because the expertise is held overseas. So there's a sort of disparity here in the power dynamics surrounding knowledge. And so the campaign here has been to ensure that that knowledge goes as near to the ground as it possibly can do to increase that negotiating power. I guess my kind of curiosity here is, since you've been doing this since 2018, have you been able to get an idea of how much value has been lost, how much opportunity has been lost in Malawi in the gemstone trade in financial terms?
Well, I would say a lot, but I can't really quantify. An example of an evaluation, the Malawi government economic report of 2024 reported that Malawi exported about 793 metric tons of gemstones in 2023, valued at slightly above $300,000. So you can actually see that that's just peanuts. How can 793 tons, the government only getting 300,000? So it's sad. In the absence of expertise, it means that we cannot really negotiate, or we don't have bargaining power. I'll give you an example of one of the oldest ruby deposits in Malawi, the Chimwazuru mine, which was founded, I think it was first reported in the 1920s, but to date, the country hasn't really benefited anything. And in 2022, we saw the government suing one of the off-takers from the US for an exaggerated claim of $309.6 billion, which implied that probably the miner could have maybe generated over $1 trillion, which is just insane. So lack of expertise, has also contributed a lot because we are failing to negotiate contracts properly.
That's fascinating. And a couple of questions come out of there. And I want to get on a little bit to the value and where that value lies. But you know, basically what you're saying is that when a gemstone goes through its journey and it's finally cut, polished, treated, and set, the value that the consumer or the value that the consumer-facing brand gets in most European, Middle East, US markets is many times greater than the value that is generated in the country, and especially at the mine. But one thing you alluded to there was trust, and you said in the same sentence synthetic gemstones as well. So is the issue around synthetics coming into the market, or is the issue around a breakdown in trust? And I ask that because in some ways synthetic stones are just a stone. So as long as they are, if you're transparent about it being synthetic, then people can make a choice whether they want a synthetic stone or one which is dug out of the ground, natural stone. So is it the trust, or is it just the entry of synthetics, which is a challenge?
I would say most people are very excited when they hear about gemstones, but they don't really have technical expertise. So there's a lot of misrepresentation, actually deliberate misrepresentation. And a number of times I think I've seen people actually getting fake reports, not issued by the ministry, but they will take you to the ministry, and somehow they'll manage to get those reports to you, and you think that these reports are originating from the ministry. So it's an issue of misrepresentation.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, I think what you're saying is that people still value a story where they understand the provenance of a stone and the kind of naturalness of it. I mean, I certainly do. I think that's very romantic that you get a gem hunter, which is harvesting stones from a natural setting and how it travels down the supply chain. But it's really the absence of the systems that you're talking about, which doesn't allow people to act on that sense of value. So what's the government doing about this? I think they've done quite a bit, and they've actually banned the export of gemstones at one stage.
I would say that in February last year, after government officials, including the former Vice President, Dr. Michael Usi, they saw that Malawi isn't really benefiting from the gemstone sector. So according to them, they discovered that the Minister of Mining and the Mining and the Regulatory Authority were to blame simply because they do not have the systems. So I would say that this ban was meant for the Minister of Mining and Authority to fix the evaluation system. And I fully supported this move because we had been advocating on the same since 2022. So basically, the message that government was trying to send was that government was now aware of the importance and potential of the gemstone industry, and that it was ready to adopt transparent systems. Initially, the ban was actually supposed to last 21 days, but from the onset, we said that that was impossible because fixing evaluation systems meant that the government either could have hired accredited experts or trained the experts, which could take maybe a year or so. So in October as well, we had an executive order by the president banning raw gemstone exports and other minerals. But here I should also emphasize that this ban has always been there, but the authorities weren't really enforcing the ban.
Yeah. So the idea was there. The idea was good, but it wasn't enacted. So these things are good, but only as long as you follow through. I understand. But do you think they should go further? Because as I said, as I mentioned, the value, if you look at the value chain of gemstones, most of the value is at the retail end, um, when the gemstone has been transformed and set. Should the government be looking at beneficiation? In fact, I think they did look at beneficiation in country. Is that something that should be happening in Malawi?
Yeah, of course, we need beneficiation, but what government is suggesting is now mass beneficiation. We can do this in phases because at the moment we still have some critical gaps. We are lacking accredited laboratories that can certify the gemstones. We don't have gemstone manufacturing facilities. The government has only had one, I think, which cannot even process about 2 tons. So I believe we should be realistic. Of course, in terms of markets, there's an Export Development Fund, EDF, a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank. They started buying gemstones in 2023, but they were only buying raw gemstones. And there's also a new government mining company called Mamiko. They're also planning to start trading in gemstones. So perhaps maybe these organizations will open up a market for the processed gemstones.
And it's difficult, isn't it? Because you spent some time in Thailand, and Thailand is one of the hubs for gemstone everything for the gemstone market, as is Sri Lanka, to a certain extent Japan and India. And the reason why Thailand is a hub is because it takes in gemstones from many different countries, and it's able to match color and weight, size to make up different collections. And so, in some ways, that's how the gemstone trade works with these individual stones. It's hard for any one country to get off takers for their production rather than export it to hubs where there can be greater value aggregation through aggregation. Do you see that as being a problem just for nature of the colored gemstone market?
Actually, that is what is supposed to happen. Currently, Malawi doesn't have the capacity. Since most miners haven't yet secured markets, this might also lead to loss of business. And also, we're going to see a lot of smuggling. And also, due to the fact that at the moment Malawi doesn't have skilled artisans, lapidarians, cutters, then we also gonna see a lot of substandard products on the market.
Yeah, now understood. And over COVID, one thing that we noticed, well, before COVID, the gemstone industry has behaved for many hundreds of years, and it's very much a personal industry built on trust and hand-to-hand exchanges. Over COVID, we saw the rise of online platforms to market gemstones. Has that facilitated what you're trying to achieve in Malawi? Some of these online platforms being able to market and describe your stones and provide the authentication certifications online?
Maybe to some extent, because personally, due to the lack of systems, I haven't sold any gemstone since 2018. So imagine if the ban was being imposed, if I was also participating, then people would have lost trust in my expertise. So in my case, I'm yet to start selling. But however, I've seen a couple of Malawians they are using online platforms. But out there, people are looking for certified gemstones. So it is too hard for them to do proper business.
So changing direction a little bit. At the beginning, I pointed out that gemstone mining is mostly, 90+% is done by artisanal miners, and that's one thing which attracted me to it, and I found very interesting because it then holds out the promise that communities who are actually doing the digging can benefit from it, and automation isn't easy in gemstones because you have to pay such attention to the individual stones you're taking from the ground. So can we talk a little bit about benefit sharing and community participation? Because I know this is very much something that you're passionate about. How do you go about doing this in Malawi? What are some of the challenges, and what's the sort of a landscape of community participation in artisanal mining or gemstone mining generally?
So in our case, since we understand the value of these things, we are actually proposing that we're going to do profit sharing with the community and also partake in infrastructure development, in health, also in education, apart from providing employment. So we kind of want to read by example because we are willing to give the community up to 10% of our annual profits. And this is totally different even from the bigger mining companies, which I think according to them, through the Act, they are allowed to contribute, should be 0.025% to the community, which is very, very sad, considering that the communities are actually the owners of these minerals.
I think that's a great story. And 10%, as you said, is very significant. And increasing automation in the large industrial mining sector, it's becoming harder to see what are the direct benefits for communities. So being able to share that, I think, is very laudable and hopefully replicable. So we talked a little bit about what the government of Malawi is doing and perhaps where it faces challenges and could do more. In a world where we're seeing the emergence of blocks and regional powers, and everybody knows that Africa holds many of the minerals that are needed by the rest of the world. Is there a role, do you think, from your perspective, for African regional institutions to play a role in supporting the gemstone industry across Africa and, of course, to positively affect Malawi as well?
Yes, of course. Of course, at the moment, the African Union is advancing the African Mining Vision, AMV, and it is projecting that the gem and jewelry industry is worth about 20 billion. So actually, Africa isn't just a producer of raw materials, but it is also becoming a market for our own gemstones. In terms of development partners, I've also seen UNDP and World Bank. They are doing much, only that maybe some countries are not really taking up their recommendations. For example, in 2019, the World Bank actually conducted a technical exercise on Malawi's mining industry. And they did discover all these things, lack of standardization due to lack of accredited laboratories. So to date, the government is yet to implement some of the recommendations. In terms of private sector, I would say that the opportunities are endless from exploration, mining, beneficiation. So investors are welcome to come to Africa to set up accredited laboratories, processing facilities, and they can also provide mining equipment. And above all, maybe investment banks tailored specifically for maybe the gemstone industry or the mining industry at large. Then I think finally collaboration. We need collaboration. We should realize that we cannot advance without knowledge. So I would urge Africa to learn from the best. They should collaborate with the likes of Responsible Jewelry Council, the International Colored Gemstone Association, ICA, also World Jewelry Confederation, CBJO. They could also partner up with gemological schools like GEMWA in London, as well as GIA. Collaboration is the only way that will help us to benefit from our resources.
Thank you so much for those messages. I think you are a great ambassador for not only your country, but for the continent. And going into the Mining Indaba in 2026, I hope we'll get the chance to give some of these messages, relay some of these messages to the investors and government representatives that are there. And I guess what I hear from you and what I hear from many people of our colleagues in Africa is the potential of Africa in this sector is vast. We just need people to show a little bit of faith and take that first step into the dark and begin to invest and support enterprises like yours. And just to finish, are there any concluding remarks you'd like to make, and perhaps any messages you would like to take with you to the Mining Indaba in a couple of weeks' time?
I've been wanting to attend the Mining Indaba for quite some time now. But since we are not really generating any income, that hasn't been the case. So this time around, I'm very happy to attend the Indaba. And I'm hoping to network with different players in the extractive industry and also showcase Malawi gemstone industry and probably attract investors and partners to collaborate maybe on exploration, mining, and beneficiation.
Well, thank you so much, Yamikani Jimusole, for joining us today and telling us your story and your hopes. And I can't help but believe that you'll be very successful at the Indaba in getting your message across and attracting attention to the work that you're doing, because it is very inspiring. And thank you for our listeners for joining us today. Please check out the rest of this special series of Mining Indaba podcasts on the TDI Suits and Boots podcast channel. I look forward to seeing you at the Indaba event in February, where you can hear more from Yamikani and the other Community Voices 2026 winners. I'm Stewart Carter, and thank you for listening.